Hello everyone, welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. Today's episode is me answering your questions again. Thank you very much for everybody who's sending me your questions. There's the mailbag address for those of you who want to send in more questions, future questions. Check the link for the description, the email address where you can send more questions in. Before I get started with this episode, I want to give a quick thank you to our sponsors, our channel sponsors. They make this channel possible. TimTam.tech, they make the world's best deep tissue therapy device. You guys have been giving us great reviews on the Tim Tam. Thank you very much for those of you who have been buying and reviewing the Tim Tam. It's a really phenomenal product. Check it out if you haven't done so already. Next up on the list is DefenseTech.co. DefenseTech.co makes everything protection. Okay, so if you want to secure your apartment, your car, you want pepper spray, you want you want to buy some type of self-defense keychain, etc. The entire site's amazing. The entire site's amazing. Secret cameras, hidden cameras, dummy cameras, real surveillance cameras. I mean, they got it all. Anything to do with protection and self-defense, etc. Check out this site. It's an amazing site. Okay. Also, we have xpn.world, the best in nutrition. All their supplements are tested by a third party, etc. Certified supplements, guaranteed not to be contaminated with anything other than what is written on the bottle. Okay, so no more contaminated supplements. Okay, no more of those stories, please. And lastly, I want to thank Reebok, of course, always supporting the channel and a real drive behind the TriStar Gym channel on YouTube. Okay, so let's get started. I like to pump things out real quick and make sure that we get the action rolling right away. First question is from Xalargos. Xalargos, hi, I'm a big fan from Greece and I want to know your opinion about EBI rules and what's your opinion instead of original overtime back in Spiderweb, let the guys start from 50-50. So what you're saying is in EBI, for those of you who don't know, when there's no sub because it's submission only, we go in overtime. And overtime is you have the choice between starting an armbar or spiderweb, a type of armbar, or starting with the back control. Now, if you sub your opponent gets a chance to pick back or armbar and try to sub you. If he doesn't sub you, you win. If he does, you guys go into another round. Now, if both of you, I think it's 3 rounds. I'm not sure about the overtime rules exactly. I think if you guys go through 3 rounds, then it's whoever escaped the fastest. So whoever took the least amount of time to escape. I really like the rules. By the way, it's very exciting. EBI is getting more and more exciting. It's quickly become my favorite grappling event. You know, I used to love Abu Dhabi. Then it became too much wrestling and stalling, and you know they had modified the rules a bit here and there. But there's no action like EBI. EBI, in my opinion, is EBI, Polaris. What other events are really good? They just had a really good one in a cage. I forget the name of the event, but it was a really, really good one. It was sub only. I'm loving sub only. I love sub only. Sub only is the way to go. I still like points. I still like passing the guard for points, etc., taking the back. I think that there's a place for that still. I think that Jiu-Jitsu is still finding itself. The rules are going to keep evolving and changing. And I think eventually they're going to find a happy medium, maybe golden point, or if you go sub only and then you go in overtime and the first person to score a point wins. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities out there. There's a lot of possibilities for the rules. I like the overtime, go straight to 50-50. Now, let me just say something, Zolargos. I've actually had this idea and I've pitched it already, and I've thought of doing my own tournament where you end up in 50-50. Now, Zolargos, great minds think alike. I like where your head is at. But the problem with that, see, in wrestling, they also had that rule at one point where if the match went in overtime, see, back in the day when I was wrestling, you'd start both of you with a leg. It's really weird, hard for me to demonstrate, but I'd have a high crotch, my opponent has a high crotch, and they would sound the bell and you'd wrestle. First person to score a point wins. Then they moved it to, okay, we start in a body lock. Okay, so you start in a body lock. I have a body lock and you have a body lock. The first person to throw the other wins, or the first person to score a point wins, or whoever lets go first loses. So that means you're defending. So that means you lose. So if we're in 50-50, the problem with going overtime in 50-50 is, what if somebody escapes 50-50? Does that person lose because they were being defended? They were defending? That's one negative. Or then are people going to be upset because the guy lost because he defended? It's kind of a... why does defending, why does not being an expert in 50-50 cost you the win? Why is the 50-50 the nucleus of Jiu-Jitsu? Why is it that the determining position? Now, I love 50-50. I think 50-50 is brilliant. It's a brilliant position. I use it all the time. I think it's excellent. If I know Jiu-Jitsu, I want to bring you in 50-50, because you cannot escape. You cannot escape this guard easily. You have to know jiu-jitsu. Your jiu-jitsu has to be as good or better than mine if you want to escape. So that's what I love about jiu-jitsu. It drags your opponent into a confusing world where strength doesn't really matter. And that's the kind of world I want to bring my opponents. And so I love 50-50. But if you're going to do that, okay, guys are going to get finished or they're going to escape. Now, what do you do when they escape? That's the thing. Because 50-50, there's heel hooks galore. There's lots of things you could do. Lots of toe holds, etc. Estima locks from there, etc. There's lots of submissions. So that's not the problem. What do you do when the guys escape 50-50? Is that going to be the end of the match? Is it anticlimactic? I'm not sure. I like the idea. I may do a tournament in the future. Personally, myself, I might start hosting tournaments where the 50-50 is the end. I also thought about other ways to do it. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but there has to be a way to break the tie. I think Eddie Bravo is doing it the best right now so far. Are there better ways? I'm sure we're going to keep experimenting with that. The 50-50 is a great option. I really like that idea. I've run it by a lot of people. A lot of people are intrigued by it. A lot of people think it's a good idea. I may do it that way. I'm not sure yet, but time will tell. I'm still thinking about it. But guys, if you have a good idea for a tiebreaker, let me know. Put it in the comments. I'm open to that, and I want to help put up good tournaments in the future. And we need a way. If you don't get the sub, we need something exciting, though. It has to be exciting. It can't be anticlimactic. The guy escaped, therefore we award the guy who didn't escape the win. I just find it's just anticlimactic. Okay, so put your thinking hats on, guys, and let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you. Next one here. Let me check. Next one here. This one's from Ivan. Ivan asks, "Hi, Mr. Zahabi. I want to thank you for your videos. My question is, I'm 27 years old. Do you think I could start practicing BJJ at 27 years old? I've never trained in martial arts before. Also, do you recommend a specific gym in Montreal for a beginner?" Well, Ivan, TriStar Gym, obviously. We have a beginner's class Tuesday and Thursday nights. I teach the beginner's class very, very often. And I'm there when it's being given, so I always peek into the beginner's class and give a hand, of course, if I'm not the one teaching the class. Start in the basics class and work your way to the intermediate mat and so on. 27 years old is not too old. That's an absurdity. That's such a weakness. In in the Western mind, people think 27 years old is old. No, I don't think 27 years old is old. Now, I know a man named by the name of John Danaher. If you haven't heard of him, he's literally one of the greatest minds in jiu-jitsu ever. Okay, he's a brilliant human being. He's innovated a lot of techniques, etc. He started at the age of 27. He started training jiu-jitsu at the age of 27. Now, starting at the age of 27, you have a lot of pros. You have some cons and you have some pros. Okay, what are the pros? One, you're wiser. You're a wiser human being. You're a more mature human being. Use that to your advantage. And when you go in there, because you don't have 10 years of training already, you're going to have more enthusiasm. You're a beginner. Everything's so exciting. Everything's so new. Everything is a mind blow. Everything your trainer is going to show you is a total mind blow. You're going to have that motivation. You're going to have that beginner's high, that beginner's high. So use that. Create that momentum. And whoever tells you you're too old, man, is a fool. Old people who get old, there are people who don't know any better. I forget who said that, okay? But I heard Tom Billier say that, and I love this quote. He was quoting someone else. I forget who was the original quote, but people who get old are people who don't know any better, okay? So I feel the same. I'm 37. I feel the same like when I was 27. Who are these people who are getting old at 27? 27, I was training twice a day like I am today, and if you eat right and exercise, and you exercise the right amount. I hate saying exercise. Some people exercise too little. Some people exercise too much. If you exercise the right amount, you shouldn't be injured, and you should be feeling great, and you should have a lot of energy. If you eat right, if you eat the right foods and the right amount of foods, if you train right and you train the right amount, it's the right stuff and the right amount. You need to juggle these two. If you eat the right foods, but you don't eat the right amount, you're not going to have energy, okay? Eat the right foods, eat the right amount of food. If you can juggle those two, you win. Train the right amount and train correctly. We will talk about what training correctly is in the future, okay? Hopefully the question will come up sooner or later. Train correctly, train the right amount. Now, what's training the right amount? Try to train the amount that doesn't make you sore the next day so you can do it again, okay? The idea is to fire up the metabolism every single day. Do you spend one day of your life without firing the metabolism? Let's just say, when I say every day, I mean 5 to 6 days a week. Okay, let's give one day rest, 1 or 2 days rest. Okay, it's good to have rest. It is. It is. I use the word every day too much. Okay, I'm overstating. 5 to 6 days a week, fire up your metabolism. 1 to 2 times a day. 1 to 2 times a day. It doesn't have to be a ferocious workout. People think when you work out, you got to kill yourself. No, it's a marathon. I'm training for life. Okay, I fire up the metabolism, whether I do it in 5 minutes and I have to go, I'm in a rush, or whether I take 30, 40, 50 minutes and I keep working out and I keep the sweat going. Okay, when I'm firing the metabolism, I'm not a biologist, but I know, I can feel that the body's doing something incredible. Okay, it's regenerating itself. I don't know what it is. Okay, but I feel the same like when I was 19. Okay, I'm not gonna give you the ins and outs here, the biological ins and outs, but I'm sure there is tons of research. I've seen it, I've read it. But I'm not a biologist. I'm a philosopher. I'm a martial artist. Okay, that was my domain. That's where I went to university for, etc. When you sweat every day and you fire up that metabolism every single day, you don't need steroids. You don't need contaminated supplements. Just regular supplements is good. Nutrition and training. Master these two, and you realize how ridiculous you sound when you say 27 is old. Now I know martial artists, they're in their 50s. Okay, like for instance, one great example is Phil Nurse. If you're ever in New York, go to the Watt. The Watt is a Muay Thai gym, okay? And check out Phil Nurse. I won't give you guys his age, but he's up, he's a mature guy, okay? He's in his 50s, let's just say. And the guy, not only he looks like his body's like trim and slim and like he's 25, but the guy will kick your ass. I'm telling you, I've sparred with the guy, I've trained with the guy. I mean, the guy is a killer. Like, I've clinched with the guy. I mean, I've even grappled with the guy. He doesn't grapple, and he's incredibly hard to subdue on the ground. And I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I wrestle every single day. Now, I'm not saying he's a jiu-jitsu expert, but he knows from clinching. I mean, he translates. It's weird, he translates his clinching to the ground. The guy is a phenomenal freak. And I asked him one day, I said, "What do you do when you're tired?" He said, "I don't believe in tired." That's what he told me. And I kind of woke up there, and I was like, if I'm going to keep up with this guy, because don't forget, we trained a lot together over the years, training GSP and other fighters. I said to myself, I got to man up here. I can't ever tell this guy I'm tired. I mean, this guy's, older than me, and he's putting in the work. I gotta man up here. I gotta have a mind shift here. I gotta get in my head here and keep up with this man. So lots of characters like that. Lots of characters like that are older, but they train smart. Okay, a lot of people have this myth in their mind that when they go to the gym, they have to punish their body. They have to go to the gym and punish their body. Build the body. I go there to build the body. Okay, I go to train my body to build it up. I don't go to destroy the body. I go to build up the body. I go to feel good. When I work out, I'm feeling here. This is how good I'm feeling. And then when I'm working out, my good feelings go up. I feel really good. I'm on fire right now. You shoot me with a bullet, I feel great. That's when I cut the training. I don't wait till I go so bad that I'm feeling drained and I'm suicidal and I want to jump out the window. And then, okay, the workout's done. No, the workout was done way before that. Way before that. I finish my workouts feeling better than when I started them, okay? For those of you who want to read up on a good book about this, read up on Pavel Tsatsouline. That's not an easy name to spell. Power to the People by Pavel Tsatsouline. Okay, he gives some really interesting insights on how the nervous system works, etc. And it's a very fun read. It's an easy read. It's not overly technical. A lot of the training manuals are overly technical. And there's a right amount of training, and you have to keep your body fresh. And you could do this every single day. And you will surpass the guys who are beating their heads up against the wall. You will surpass them because they will burn out. When you get tired, you're not learning as much. I feel good, I learn a lot. When I feel good, my energy is high, show me something, teach me something. My mind is alert. Don't drain your batteries. It's not good to train with your batteries drained. Now, that's not to say feeling like this, and after the warm up, my energy level feels like this. Okay, so that's why I like to warm up. Warming up is huge. How do I warm up? I like to warm up with technique. I don't like to do a lot of running around and stretching and all that. I warm up with technique and stuff like that. But I build that heat. That metabolism is so important. Firing your metabolism up every day. It's interesting. They did a study on antidepressants versus exercise, and exercise was just as effective as antidepressants. And telling you as somebody who trains every day, that's 100% true. Whenever I work out, I start sweating. I'm working on the bag or I'm wrestling. My feeling of my energy level, those good feelings start to pump. Those chemicals start to pump in your body, and you feel good. However, I think if you train too hard, you go down the other side of the mountain. Okay, so you got to think about it like a bell curve. you know, like taking a tan. There's being too much in the sun, and there's not being in the sun enough. You're not getting the vitamin D, and everything is like that. Okay, everything is, there's a right amount. There's a right amount of training. There's a right amount of sleeping. There's a right amount of drinking. There's a right amount of eating. There's a right amount of everything. You know, you could literally kill yourself by drinking too much water. Being hydrated is good, but overhydration is not good. You know, there's usually 99% of the time a way to overdo it. So I think the number one factor is people train 3 times a week because they beat their body up so bad. So if you really want to get good at jiu-jitsu, you can't do jiu-jitsu 3 times a week. You got to do it every day. To do it every day, you gotta respect your body's limits and slowly build your body. Okay, so that's my advice to you, Ivan, and I hope you don't let any negative thoughts derail you from the enjoyment of practicing jiu-jitsu. Not only will it keep you healthy, it'll help you defend yourself if ever need be, and it'll build your confidence. So I'm a huge believer in not only training but developing, doing something that's functional in the world, and jiu-jitsu hits the nail on the head. I wish you good luck with that. Next one here is from Mark. Mark asks, hi, I'm 34 now, but when I was younger, I would roll with a lot more intensity until I injured my neck and developed nerve damage. Now I've taken on the keep it playful mentality, but in doing so, I'm letting people pass my guard or sweep me when I could have fought it off harder. I'm competing soon, and I've realized that this may have been a mistake. What do you think? How do you keep a balance of rolling with the right intensity to stay healthy, yet keep the competitive edge? I love your channel, by the way. Thank you very much for doing this. My pleasure, Mark. And to answer your question, okay, so you're saying here that you're flow rolling a lot more, and people are scoring more on you, and that's costing you a competitive edge. You're asking me if it's costing you a competitive edge. I don't agree. I don't agree. I do a lot of flow rolling. When I get in the gym and my body's tight, you know, my shoulders tight or my neck's tight, I don't roll hard. I know better because it's going to make things worse, okay? When I go into the gym, I warm up with technique. I flow roll a few rounds. Sometimes when I feel tight, when I feel my body's tight, not all the time. Sometimes I roll right off the bat. I roll hard. Why? Because I feel good. I feel my energy level's good. And a lot of times I'll roll with the same people. Why? Because we know each other. We know each other. We know not to go too hard early on. The most dangerous guy on the mat is the beginner. He's the most dangerous. He's the guy who's going to hurt me the most, you know. So, you know, look at my wrist. Like sometimes I have these scratches on my wrist. Why? Because when I grab a guy, he kind of digs his nails into my skin, and that's usually a blue belt or a white belt, or somebody. He's really nervous. He knows I'm a black belt. He's really nervous. He doesn't, you know, he's just. Those guys are the guys who hurt me the most. You get an eye poke, you get kicked in the groin, you get scratched up. You get a headbutt, you get a knee. Those are the guys. Don't be that guy, you know. So I do a lot of flow rolling. I warm up. When my body's really warm, I start to pick up the intensity. Whether my partner knows it or not, whether he's going intense or not, that's not up to me. If he passes my guard, I let him pass my guard. And I just practice my side control escapes. Don't be too egotistical, you know. Get in there. And, you know, I won't tell you that I get in the gym and I let everybody guillotine me and arm lock me. No, that's not true either. You know, I feel like from side control, I can defend myself. You know, from back control, I can defend myself. And sometimes I let subs go by. Yeah, sure. You know, I let people sub me, no problem. But usually he's a blue belt. He knows I'm just kind of messing with him. You know, he's a purple belt. He knows I'm toying with him. And when I'm really warm, I'll start to get to work, you know. And just because he subbed me once, doesn't think you know whether he thinks he's better than me or not, it's not really my prerogative, you know. Am I getting better? Am I practicing the positions? If somebody swept me, I'm trying to think, how could I have stopped him from sweeping me while I'm flow rolling? Well, I'm going to become really technical, you know. I'm going to start asking myself those questions. If somebody's side control on me, how am I going to get him off me without using lots of force? You know, I call it third round training. You know, if you're in round 3 deep, what techniques are going to work for you now? You're not explosive. You don't have a lot of endurance. You're drained. You know, you got to get inside your head and you got to find those leverage points, and eventually your jiu-jitsu will be better for that. So my suggestion to you is start with flow rolling, flow roll, and pick up every round more and more intense. The more heat you have, the more your body's warm, the more elastic your joints are. You're not going to have neck pain, etc. Me, when I'm really warm and I'm sweating, that's when I go hard. Sometimes I start off cold, you know, but I always kick myself for it later. I'm always like, why did I do that? Now my shoulder's tight. Now my leg's tight. You said that you injured your neck. Okay, so injuring your neck and spine is really something you have to look into. Now, I always recommend the book How to Become a Supple Leopard by Kelly Starrett. Becoming a Supple Leopard by Kelly Starrett. You have to read this book. It's 600 pages. Get the second edition. There's a lot of great illustrations. It's 600 pages, but there's a lot of pictures. You must read this book. If you guys have not picked up this book, buy this book. It teaches you how to maintain your body, the basics of maintaining your body, and the proper body mechanics. This book is huge. This book is so important. I can't overstress it. If you're gonna roll and you're gonna do, you're gonna lift weights and stuff like that, you better do it in a perfect manner, and you better know how to maintain your body. I use it every single day. I've memorized the book. I know it's not that hard. It's not that complicated of a lesson. But there are, I would say there's a lot of gems in there you have to learn, but you don't have to learn them all in one day. And there's a lot of pictures and a lot of little easy to follow illustrations to make you understand what Kelly Starrett is trying to say. Basically, you got to treat your neck every day until the pain goes away. And whenever you have any type of tightness, you have to loosen it up. That's why I love the Tim Tam so much. TimTam.tech. That's why I got involved with them. I love the product. This product is unbelievable. You need to keep your body loose. So when you're rolling, when you're getting really warm, that's the time to put your body through more stress. You got to be sweating. If you're not sweating, it's crazy. To go in there cold, you're gonna hurt yourself. So I flow roll, and when I get really warm, I start to go more and more and more. Okay, so that's what I do. That's how I mix. You ask me how I balance it. That's how I do it. If you only flow roll, the downside is you're gonna think things work when they don't really work. When the guy's really aggressive, sometimes you're gonna fall into the traditional some traditional martial arts went too much into fantasy. They think if they grab your wrist, they're gonna flip you over and throw you on your back. No, actually, when the guy's really resisting 100%, it doesn't work that way. So you gotta fact check your technique, okay? And you can only do it in the heat of battle. When you're really, really in the heat of battle, when you're in competition, then you're gonna know if these techniques really work. And that's why I watch a lot of competition footage. Did it work at international level competition? Then I trust the technique. If it didn't, then the question, that technique goes in the maybe pile. It has to go in the maybe pile. Definitely, if a technique works in flow rolling, it doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. That's just it's a prototype technique. It may or may not work. We don't know. Put it in the heat of battle. See if it works. If it does work, put it in the trustworthy techniques. Okay, the pile of trustworthy techniques. But flow rolling lets you practice the trustworthy techniques. It lets you practice them a lot. Okay, but again, to master them, you need to eventually dip your toe into a real hard sparring. So go with what your body can take. But when you're cold, flow roll. When you're warm, put more heat in the fire. Like stoke the fire a little bit. Okay, number 4. Let me see on time here. I think oh, okay, guys, I gotta wrap this up. 2 more. I got 2 more lined up. Hi Faraz. In video number 2, you discussed the challenges of being the smaller person at the gym. What advice would you give when you are the biggest person in the gym? As you stated, strength can be a determinant to technique. So how does one mitigate this in order to learn solid jiu-jitsu? How should you train? What should you focus on? I appreciate the work you do and putting in these videos. They're incredibly helpful and thought-provoking. Thank you, Bob from Naperville, Illinois. Bob, thank you very much for your question and comments. If you in video number 2, I said if you're the smallest guy, you're gonna have to emphasize technique, and the bigger guys often don't understand technique because the biggest guy in the room thinks what he's doing is technical, but it's really not. He's using a lot of weight and power, and of course, when you're bigger, you have more inertia. People can't move you around as much. So I really recommend that when you're rolling, if you're the bigger guy in the room and you want to master technique, you got to give your opponent the strength edge. If my opponent grabs my wrist and he pulls it, I let him pull it. I got to defend it by pushing. If he pulls me, I got to defend by pushing. If he pushes me, I got to defend by pulling. I have to always go in the direction of the flow, okay, or go with the flow or flow with the go. Hickson famously said the flow with the go, which I like even better than go with the flow. So master that. I always tell people, feel where the weight is going and then think about the technique. Don't think about which technique do I want to use, and then it doesn't matter which way the current. I like to also use the word current. If somebody's pushing me or pulling me, I feel that there's a current. I got to surf that wave. I got to go in the direction of that wave, and then you've really mastered jiu-jitsu, okay? So if my opponent pulls me and he changes direction, my technique is going to change direction. I'm always following the weight or the current, as I like to say, the flow. If he pulls me, I'm pushing. If he pushes me, I'm pulling. And when he changes direction, I'm changing direction with him, and it should feel like water, as we all know. And that's the true key. So Bob, the bigger guys, I think, have to move more. A lot of times they static, you know, they get side control and they're planted there. They get mount and they're planted there. Why? Because their weight crushes their opponent. No, you got to be moving just as often as the little guy. So if you're in mount, you're in side control. If you're in side control, you went to back. And if you're in back, you went to armbar. If you're from armbar, you went to mount. And just keep transitioning. Jiu-Jitsu is about transitioning. Jiu-Jitsu is about transitioning. Now, if you look at Judo and Jiu-Jitsu, Jiu-Jitsu rewarded, this is a concept John Denahar told me. He's like, look, Jiu-Jitsu rewarded its players for passing the guard, going to mount, taking the back. Transitions was rewarded with points. Judo was often rewarded with static position. If you can hold the guy there, you get rewarded. And look at the difference on the ground. You know, the Jiu-Jitsu guys are, I think it's unarguable. On the ground, the Jiu-Jitsu guys are better. Why? Transitioning was a superior strategy. So my suggestion to you, Bob, if you're the bigger guy, try not to force positions and transition. If you get side control, go to the next position. Give up side control. Let them have the re-guard. Pass the guard again. When you pass the guard, go to knee on stomach. When you go on the stomach, go to the back. Just keep going from one position to another. Avoid the static type of jiu-jitsu that the big man is usually accustomed to. And you can see it takes a lot more cardio. So you're going to have to relax more and become more fluid. So that's my recommendation to you, Bob. I hope it helps. And let me know how it goes. Next question. Last question is from Peter. Do you know John Denahar's leg lock system, and can you talk about the system and its applications in MMA? I'm a black belt under John Denahar. Yes, I've had the privilege, of course, of training with him, and of course Eddie Cummings, Gordon Ryan, and Gary Tonin. I've trained with them all, etc. These guys are the best leg lockers ever. You know, the best leg lockers today and the best leg lockers ever. The best leg lock system there is out there. I've had the privilege of growing up under John Denahar's tutelage, and he's by no means a regular person. Okay, he's literally a genius. He's a genius in just thought, and he's applied that to jiu-jitsu, and he's brought a lot of innovations to leg locks. The leg lock system that John Denahar has developed is just light years ahead of any other system out there. Great evidence of this was Gary Tonin versus Paul Harris. Paul Harris is an elite leg locker in MMA. And you guys all saw what he did in Abu Dhabi. He made it all the way to the finals. He crippled a few guys on the way there with leg locks. He's been busted for steroids. I mean, if anybody in their right mind doesn't think he does steroids, well, you have scientific proof. He's been, busted for steroids. He wrestled Gary Tonin, a protege of John Denahar. And for those of you who saw that match, that is one of the greatest jiu-jitsu matches in jiu-jitsu history. Okay, and I'm not trying to over-exaggerate. That is one of the greatest David and Goliath fights in the history of jiu-jitsu. And there's so much to learn in that tape. I've watched that fight so many times. And I think Gary Tonin is crazy for taking up that match. I think he's crazy. I didn't talk to him before the match, but I would have tried to convince him not to do that match. That's a very, very dangerous match. For those of you who don't know Paul Harris, he's not 100% all there. He's been criticized very heavily and repeatedly for injuring his opponents, holding the leg lock longer than he needs to. The man doesn't seem right in his head, and check out his highlight footage or check out his videos, his fights, etc. And you'll understand why. He doesn't seem to have the maturity level to understand what he's doing. He's been also tested positive for steroids, etc. If you guys saw his fight with Jake Shields, you saw how many underhanded things he did, raking the eyes, etc. The man is not 100% there. And Gary Tonin gave up a tremendous weight advantage. I thought he was crazy, but nonetheless, he came out not only unscathed, he dominated Paul Harris. Paul Harris, not only did Gary have the better transitions, the better attacks, the better submission attempts, he also outlasted Paul Harris. Paul Harris was fading, and Gary was speeding up. Eventually, I think Gary would have subbed him. He only had, I believe, it was 10 or 20 minutes. I think it was 10 or 20 minutes. I can't remember, but by the end, Paul Harris couldn't keep up, and the techniques that Gary used were unbelievably efficient and impressive, incredibly impressive. And it's all the John Denahar leg lock system, and of course. The Renzo Gracie Academy, there's a plethora of leg lockers, but they're also really good at guillotines and triangles. I mean, they're so good at so many things. But John Denahar really has thrown a wrench in the whole system of jiu-jitsu, because so many teams are good at triangle, armbar, back takes, etc. But his leg lock system gives them an edge. And, it's such a weakness in jiu-jitsu that people don't want to learn the leg lock system. And then you go on the mat where people leg lock, and they just leg lock you all day long. Imagine you didn't practice arm bars or kimuras, you know, for sure you get caught in kimura. You don't know what a kimura is. You don't know how to defend it. You haven't been attacked over and over again with kimuras. And let's not forget that in the foot, there's so many small brittle bones that are easy to break. I think Jiu-Jitsu should attack every bone, save the neck and spine, you know, obviously because you could paralyze somebody. But every other limb should be, you know, safely attacked, and within, you know, a good measure, etc. And leg locks is definitely not a system to overuse. Now, I've trained with a lot of great black belts. The ones who don't know anything about leg locks usually get leg locked. So if you're asking me about John Danaher's system, I think it's the best in the world. And if you want to learn it, you have to go to New York. You have to go to the Hensel Gracie Academy. You have to go to John Danaher's class. I mean, that's the only real place to learn it. I teach it also as well in my gym, but obviously not at the level of John Danaher and his crew. And I plan to be in New York actually in April, mid or late April, for a quick little visit, drop in there for a couple of days. So if you guys are in Manhattan, I will be there around that time. I'm hoping to be there around that time. And yeah, it's one of the best gyms in the world for Jiu-Jitsu, but without a doubt for leg locking, it's amazing. Now, people ask me, why don't people get leg locks in MMA? Well, excuse me, in Jiu-Jitsu, you know, you don't, the thing is, in generally speaking, a lot of the MMA guys don't have the Jiu-Jitsu that Jiu-Jitsu guys have. Obviously not. Why? Because they got to learn all these other techniques, right? They got to learn takedowns, they got to learn clinching, they need conditioning. Conditioning is very different in MMA. So they're not as refined technically in Jiu-Jitsu. Not all of them. Some are. Okay, some guys in MMA will blow your mind in Jiu-Jitsu. They're very good. They're at that level. They can go compete in a Polaris. They can compete in Metamoris. They can compete in an EBI. And we've seen it, right? Joe Soto went to the finals, etc. He beat Miao, one of the Miao brothers. It does happen. Don't get me wrong. There's a percentage there that are elite Jiu-Jitsu, and they're in MMA. Damian Maia, etc. But leg locks are a sophisticated thing. There's a lot of detail to it. So for them to really focus in and zero in on that, their time might be better spent elsewhere. You know, it may be, because leg locks is a part of MMA, but it's not everything. Okay, so that's my explanation for that. You know, they're gonna stay with probably the basics. You know, because it's not too complicated, and they already have so much on their plate to learn. Now, with that said, there might be a great advantage there for somebody who says, hey, you know, this is something that's not been exploited. What if I spend a lot of time? What if I can manage my time to spend a lot of time on leg locks and surprise these MMA guys? It has happened, right? Paul Harris did it. And there have been other, like Aoki, for instance, he's leg locked a lot of practitioners, etc. There have been other MMA leg lockers out there, and Marseille Held, etc. And they've exploited that niche. So I think in the future it will happen also. But again, since the John Danaher system is very secluded, it's only taught in one place. When it blows up and it's out there and it's mainstream, you're going to see a lot more leg locks, because again, he's brought new ways to leg. He's solved a lot of leg lock problems, a lot of ways why people are not getting the leg lock. They're getting the leg lock now because John has figured out these problems. Now, of course, we've seen also Ryan Hall get leg locks. If you guys saw The Ultimate Fighter, he won, I think, his first 2 fights with leg locks, etc. We do see leg locks, but it takes somebody with that skill level, that understanding of skill level. Okay, guys, I have gone over time. I want to thank you all for your likes, shares, and comments as usual. Please send me more questions if you want your question answered. The mailbag is in the description. The email address is in the description. Thank you as always, and see you in the next episode.
When you train a lot, you get tight. The best way to loosen up your muscle is the Tim Tam.
Bonjour, mon nom est Marc-Élie Toussaint, je suis entraîneur de sprint depuis 23 ans. Je travaille au niveau de la vitesse avec Georges Saint-Pierre depuis 4 ans. Je viens de tester le Tim Tam, c'est le meilleur instrument au niveau du relâchement musculaire que j'ai testé de toute ma carrière. Je le recommande à tous.
Hi, I'm Georges Saint-Pierre. I'm using the Tim Tam machine after my training to help me with my recovery.